about? I'm talking about Suli Tha Rapper. You have been making noise and headwave everywhere, like airwave. I've seen a number of creatives as well just endorsing you and the brand that you stand for. I mean, we just recently saw DJ Mzingaman saying Suli Tha Rapper for images. I'm just like, okay, girl, go get it.
Yeah, that was really exciting. Oftentimes, before I even see it, my manager sort of sends it to me, and it was like, yay, that's really awesome. Because I think it's great to have like the general public respect your music and your artistry, but when fellow artists and people who sort of understand the challenges that go into being an artist and making music co-sign you, that's also sort of like there's like an added level of excitement when you receive that sort of response and feedback.
Because it's like your fellow creatives saying, okay, we'll see you, we'll see you.
Yeah,
right. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start off from why it took you so long to give us music, right? I know I just went straight to the hard question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good to start with the hard questions. But essentially, I released my first single at the end of 2021, and then all of last year didn't release any more music, even though I was in the studio from time to time. And I think I've said this on social media, but for anyone who hasn't been following me, you know, sort of being introduced to me for the first time, I'm also working in the wildlife film industry. So for long periods of time, I'm literally in the bush.
Chilling with lions.
Chilling with lions and we glamorize it a little bit, but I'm sort of away from recording studios and things like that for quite long periods of time. So it was a matter of sort of sitting down with my team and trying to figure out how we make this work, being able to both continue to express myself through the music, because I feel that this is a craft, this is a calling, but also still being able to continue my career as a wildlife filmmaker.
I love the fact that you said you had to sit down with like your team and just talk about it, because I also need to know how you balance it out, you know, with your career and also as a musical career as well. Because let's be honest, these are like two different career paths.
Yes.
I understand if you are probably in the PR because the media would need a PR personnel or something like that, but wildlife, music, how do you balance the two things that are so apart?
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of overlap. At the end of the day, being a wildlife filmmaker still requires creativity and problem solving, and there's writing involved. I mean, I'm not involved in the writing of the wildlife filmmaking that I'm currently doing, but there's a bit of overlap. I think overall they require so much of yourself to be given to the craft, and so I think that's why I really do appreciate the fact that I'm not trying to, you know, I think it's so important for people who are coming up and are entering this music space and this music business, which it really is a business. It's not just like this art, love, hippie thing that we're doing. I think it's so important to have people who are skilled as far as, like you said, PR and media, and the people that can sort of run the managerial, logistical side of things, while I'm able to sort of focus on writing and creating music.
Okay, and one thing that I've noticed is how you've just publicly spoken about how you're heavily influenced by Miss Lorraine Hill. Shout out to Lorraine, we love you. Look at how excited she is even. But I also want to know, what is it about Lorraine Hill that just gets to you, that you're just like, oh my gosh, it's Lorraine Hill?
Yeah, I think definitely as an initial spark, which she's managed to sustain all these years, but the initial spark, I think, was Sister Act 2, and it was a film that we watched quite a lot in the boarding school where I went. Yeah, no, it's a timeless film, I personally believe. But there was just something about the way she expressed herself, and in the film she sings more than she raps, but there's a certain scene where it's like, you know, they're like sort of drumming on tables and she comes forward, and it was just a really cool, I saw it as a very cool way of being able to express reality and being able to express feelings. And I think even with my first single, the first single that I put out as Suli Tha Rapper, Quarter Life Crisis, it was birthed not so much from me sitting down and being like, yeah, cool, let me write a song, but stuff had happened in my 2020, and just like things were bubbling up, and literally the first line that came to me was like, my boyfriend just said that he want to be just friends, you know, and it's sort of...
I feel you. I'm going to hug you after.
Thank you. No, I'm cool, but it was such a healing process, like writing and creating that song was such a healing process, and having released it, several people, you know, being able to be like, yeah, you know, I really feel that with you, and like, the emotions. I think as far as relating to Lauryn Hill, it was just noticing and realizing how rap is such a great avenue for expression, for me personally at least.
Interesting that you've said that, and I like the fact that you went back to Sister Act, because like you say, it's a timeless, beautiful movie. And we did see Lauryn Hill. She can sing and rap.
Yes.
Is there a part of Suli the singer that we should look forward to?
Probably not to the extent of Lauryn Hill, but I wouldn't I've been saying a great descriptor of me is the fact that I'm a storyteller, in that outside of the rap there's so much more that I'm trying to do to sort of craft around this movement, this thing that we're sort of joining hands and all going forward with. And so in one of my songs on the EP, Monday Blues, I sang on the hook and backed myself up and did like 4 different harmonies and things. So I wouldn't say I'm never going to sing in my music, but I probably I'm not going to be changing the name to Suli the singer anytime soon. So
well, which also brings me to ask, with you saying Suli the rapper,
yes.
then don't you think that just kind of boxes you in a way, because now people just like, she's a rapper.
No.
She's a rapper when you could actually sing as
yes.
well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying, but like one brilliant example I think is Chance the Rapper, who does a lot of singing in his music. And I think Suli the Rapper is such a, as far as like being catchy and getting people's attention, is like a basic understanding of what the foundation of my artistry and craft is. But I don't think it in any way creates a box. And even when I do venture out and potentially sing or do other things, I don't think it will sort of have people saying, but Suli the Rapper, how come you are? You know?
Yeah, this.
Yes.
Yeah. But also, being a young female rapper in an industry that is heavily male-dominated, how do you maneuver around that as Suli?
I think specifically young female rapper in Zambia, it's sort of a different and quite exciting space to be in, actually, because there's, I was saying this to another DJ earlier on last week, but because there's not that many people doing it, I think there's so much room as far as being able to stand out and being able to be noticed. I think being a male in a male-saturated space, is a lot harder to stand out. But on that front, I think, again, I've got a very supportive team. So that's been very useful and beneficial. And ultimately, I think the stories that I bring will ultimately be from a different perspective, being a female rapper within this space that is so
It's really interesting, because what I'm hearing from what you just answered my question is like, you don't look at it being a male-dominated industry as a challenge, but more like, hey, this is not a challenge.
Opportunity. Yes, I mean, there's an extent to it. I think it's, and in this Google age, I'm almost afraid to say this out loud, but I think the Chinese character for challenge is the same one as for opportunity. And I think if we look at challenges as solely challenges, then we'll sort of be stuck and never move forward. But if we're able to look at challenges and understand ways that they can also be opportunities, then I think we really set ourselves up for being propelled into a life in which we are chasing our dreams and a limitless life.
Interesting as well. Now, I want to talk about something that I usually watch on your Instagram, and that's the 10 sessions. I feel like first and foremost, that's brilliant, with the fact that you understood that, okay, I'm usually in the world, and if I have to continue talking to my audience, I probably have to do something about that. So what is 10 sessions? I think let's start from there.
Okay. So 10 sessions was something that I started in the wake of the release of my EP. I mentioned earlier already that for long periods of time I'm in the bush. I literally live in that tent that I, record those videos in. And so for most of them, it's sort of me speaking a bit more on what I talk about in my songs. They're not highly technical so much as they are more like a summary, an explanation. I think they're also good because I often start them with a couple of bars from the song that I'm going to be talking about. And I think they're a great way on social media to be able to get people who may not have encountered my project yet to sort of get a feel of or a slice of the music.
I think it's great. Now let's talk about your EP as well. Suli Tha Rapper, right? You might mistake it for sorry, but she cusses out the sorry on the EP.
Well, I mean, there's an extent to which it was a sorry, but obviously as a play of words, we threw in, you know, the name Suli in there, so it's Suli for the wait. And yeah, it's in the title, it's a bit of an apology, and the title track is a bit of an apology and an explanation to listeners for the delay. But I think most of it is sort of an introduction to me as an artist, an introduction to my sound as well.
So it's like a double entendre here. It's like apologizing and actually just saying, listen, this is me. I'm sorry I made you wait for this long to hear me. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Love it as well. So just tell us the thought process behind that EP as well. I mean, you've briefly touched on it, and there are a number of songs as well there. And because I'm a very visual person, I would say Monday Blues is my favorite because I liked everything that was going there. So just tell us the thought process with each and every song on that EP.
Okay. So there's 4 tracks on the EP, and they were sort of mostly written at different times, and they have different motivations, I suppose, but there's this underlying current of this encouragement for people to not be held back, but sort of go after and pursue purpose, and to not be held back by fear, but sort of go after your dreams. And I think the first track, again, is the title track, Suli for the Wait. So in it, it's a bit more trappy. It's a bit different to the other 3 songs on the EP. But I sort of give a bit of a background. And the hook was heavily inspired by a time in my childhood where, you know, free to air, SABC 2, 17 hours, you're watching Dragon Ball Z. I had an older brother, so I didn't have an option but to join in and watch Dragon Ball Z. So the hook was heavily inspired by, you know, some of the things that happen within Dragon Ball Z. And then we've got Monday Blues, which is, you know, about this 9-to-5 rat race, life of drudgery. And it's a bit of a vent song, and I think a couple of people have been able to relate really well to that.
Because we all have a 9-to-5, sweetie.
Yeah. Well, not everyone has a 9-to-5, but I think everyone can at least relate to at some time in their life. Yeah. You know, just living a life where
when
they
you
just
started to feel monotonous.
Yes, monotony. Wake up, do this, do that, go on, and I'm sort of like, no, got to do things with intention. And if I'm in the wrong space to do things with intention, let me move. Let's shake this up. Let's do life with purpose. And then we've got Here It Comes, which, you know, sort of is an introduction to me, and it was inspired by there's a Zamrock band called Witch, and my father is sort of who introduced me to music in general, and a very wide variety of music. And there's this Witch song called Introduction, and in the introduction, Jagari Chanda is sort of like, here it comes, and then it doesn't start, and then he says, here it comes, and then it doesn't start, and it's here it comes now, and it's sort of like this, like, oh, no, not yet, oh, okay, and that's sort of, I feel, how the start of my career was as well. It was just like, oh, but now, you know, it's full throttle from here, and I'm really excited to just invest more of my energy and my creativity into making more music, and then obviously conclude with Quarter Life Crisis, which really was a vent song about my 2020, but concludes with this desire to find restoration and to keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
That's right.
Love it. But you've also spoken about, you know, you're not stopping now. So you've given us an EP. What should we be expecting now from Suli, who is always in the world, by the way?
Yes. I mean, definitely, at least this year, look out for collaborations. So my EP was exclusively, you know, all me. There, you know, there's a couple of tracks where, you know, Legendson produced 2 or 3 of the songs on there, and you know, he has additional vocals in the instrumentation, and honestly, I really love working with him. He's such a great creative mind. But I did, you know, all the verses, all the hooks, da-da-da-da-da. So moving forward, definitely a lot more collaborations. I think 2 weeks after releasing my EP, I did release I featured on a Jane Lilato song called Insanity. So I think that was just a bit of a taste of some of the features that I'm going to do on other people's tracks, and features that they're going to do on my songs as well.
Interesting. Yeah. And your music videos, or is Monday Blues the only video you're going to give us from Suli for all the wait?
It won't be. It won't
It
be
better
the
not.
only music video. Especially since now you've said that you're a visual person.
Yes.
Just for you.
Because
Just for you, Esther.
I love to watch while I'm listening. I know it's a very bad trait apparently,
Yeah,
because you want to concentrate.
I mean, you know, that's who you are, and I'm glad that you've identified